Good morning, everyone. It's Tuesday, and it's time for Live with Sarah. Now, I'm going to be honest with you today and tell you I'm not 100%. I had a little trouble sleeping last night. My chest's a little bit heavy, and I think I have an ear infection on this side, and I woke up with a horrible headache. But hopefully my meds will kick in, and we'll still have a wonderful time in our live video chat today. And I've got lots of fun things planned. And by the way, did you know that today is International Emoji Day? I made this little pillow a couple of years ago. There is a video and a pattern out for it. I'll link that when I put it over on YouTube. But I noticed on Facebook, I'm going to toss that over there, that they had some new emoji backgrounds, and I just love them. They're lots of fun, and I guess that explains why they're there, because today is International Emoji Day. So make sure you feel lots of emotions today. So anyway, as I was saying, I woke up sick, and so we're still going to have fun, and I'm real excited about what we have planned for today. Now, before we get started into our ornament, and we're going to do an ornament together, and they look like this. I'm going to show you how to crochet, and I'm even going to show you how to make the little tassel. It's a lot of fun, and we'll do that in just a few minutes. And if you want to grab your yarn, you just need some worsted weight number 4. You can use cotton, acrylic, or wool, whatever you've got. You'll need your H hook, but we'll say that in a few minutes. But I thought I'd go ahead and tell you so you could grab your supplies. Now, I had a question that came through. Excuse me, like I said, not feeling the best. I pulled out the big guns. I've got a large cup of coffee today. So anywho, I got a question, and her question said, can you give us some tips on what not to do when you're crocheting? And I really thought a lot about this, and I have 3 things I want to remind you not to do when you crochet, okay? Number 1, make sure you have some snacks when you sit down to crochet, but be careful what those snacks are. You don't want to have Cheetos so that you have orange fingers on your project. You don't want to eat greasy chips with salt, or you'll get that on your project. And you don't want anything sticky that's going to make your crochet hook sticky. So if you can't have those good gushy sticky foods, what can you eat? Well, my favorite snack to eat when I'm sitting down to crochet a project is, of course, a big cup of coffee, and sometimes that's an iced coffee, and M&Ms. And remember, the commercial said they melt in your mouth, not in your hands. So you can still have some chocolate, but it won't get your projects dirty. One of the things I love to eat is popcorn, and I learned not to eat popcorn when I'm crocheting a few years ago when I was making a pretty blanket and I had to wash it. So be careful what snacks you eat when you're crocheting. What about a smoothie? I love smoothies. I've been craving for days. Chick-fil-A has a brand new peach shake, and I've been wanting it like crazy. Now, I make my own smoothies. I just freeze whatever fruit I have, and then I throw it in the blender with a little bit of almond or coconut milk. Wonderful smoothie, a great summer treat. Okay, so be careful what snacks you eat when you're crocheting. Number 2, don't allow yourself to crochet if you're mad or angry or upset. And I know that sounds like something you'd read in a driving manual. Don't drive when you're angry, you know, crying or upset. But the thing is, it will affect your tension. And what happens is, if you're in a big fight with, say, your teenage son or your husband or your neighbor down the street, and you're all mad and you're crocheting really fast, it's going to It's going to mess up your tension, because you want to keep everything nice and even, and it might even mess up your counts. So make sure that you're staying calm when you crochet. A lot of times I can mess up my tension when I'm watching a movie that's real intense. I was trying to think of the last movie that I watched that was real intense, and I can't remember. But if there's something really intense going and the music's going and you're crocheting away, and all of a sudden something that's supposed to be this big is this big because you're crocheting so tightly. So those are things to be aware of. Now, there isn't anything wrong with watching TV or even having emotions when you're crocheting. Just be careful that you don't mess up your tension or your count when you're crocheting. Something that is really neat that you can do, and I do this with my iPad, is you can listen to a book or something that's pre-recorded or even videos. There's a video I love to watch every day. I've probably told you this before. Her name is Kristen Omdahl, and she does on the beach, yarn on the beach every morning at sunset, or at sunrise, sorry. And I don't watch it that early in the morning. Like today, I didn't even get up till 7:30. I'm usually a 5:30, 6 o'clock girl. But I'll put that video on because I think it's like 30 minutes. And I'll just listen to her while I'm crocheting. She has a wonderful speaking voice, and she's just so real. Her name's Kristen Omdahl. And she does Yarn on the Beach every morning. It's just wonderful. And she's a well-known book writer. She writes knitting books, crochet books, and she has wonderful, wonderful, beautiful projects. So that's something that you can do. You can listen to a book or a video while you crochet, and make sure it's not something that's going to get you all crazied up. Okay, so the last thing that you don't want to do is choose a pattern that's well above your skill level. And I know that that sounds offensive because you think, well, I'm a crocheter, I can do anything. But sometimes, and even I can do this, we choose a pattern that's really, really, really not in our skill level. And then you get mad and frustrated because you can't work that pattern. Let me get me a quick... Yes, my throat's a little sore as well. But what you can do is look through the patterns, look at the skill, look at the stitches, and see if that's something that you can do. If you choose something that's too hard for you, don't get mad because you spent money on it or you downloaded or whatever. Set it aside until you're ready. And another thing you can do is contact the pattern designer if you don't understand maybe an instruction or something. And you can also Google stitches. I try to tell people this all the time. Google is your friend. There is so much out there for crocheters to help you. How do you spell get name? Oh, Omdahl? You know, I don't remember. It's like O-L-M. Just Google Yarn on the Beach and you'll find her. Kimberly says she sticks with easy or a tutorial, and that's okay. But once you understand all the basic stitches, don't be afraid to challenge yourself, okay? Yes, there's lots of wonderful things, and you know I like to keep things simple and open so that you can find them and easy, but I also like to do some that are a little more complicated. It's okay to challenge yourself, but if you feel that you've over-challenged yourself, don't get upset. Just set it aside. You've never wasted your money on a crochet pattern. You can always ask the designer, or you can Google the stitches, or even, you know, go into some of the groups and say, have you ever heard of this stitch? So anyway, another thing that I'm going to be doing in the next couple of days is someone asked me the other day if I knew what a double treble stitch was. And so keep that in mind. That's something that I'm going to do a video on maybe the next couple of days because it's a really fun stitch. And it's actually not double treble, it's double triple. But it sounds like double treble. So anyway, that's something that I'm going to be doing the next couple of days. All right, now are we ready to do our crochet pattern together ornament? Before I do that, somebody asked me the other day, what do your dogs do when you're doing a video? So I want to click on this cam. This is my other cam. See what they're doing? Sometimes if you hear a little in the middle of the video, that's Maximo snoring. Alrighty, so let's move over to our ornament. Now you can do these with any of your scraps. They're fun. These are just some leftover sparkles that I had. And this blue one is Red Heart Shimmer. And the white and the red and the green are all I Love This Yarn and Sparkle. You can use the Red Heart Sparkle Love, and you don't even have to use the sparkle. You can use up your leftover cottons. And another thing you can do is make two and put them together if you want a thicker one. But we're just going to make one. It's just called the Little Hexagon Christmas Ornament. And they're a lot of fun to make. You can put these on packages or gift bags for just a little extra pizzazz as well. All right, so let me pull out what I've got. We're going to be using a ruler, and this is just a little 5, it's about 5.5 because it's got a little extra on it, ruler to make the tassel. So you can do this, you can use your hand, or you can use a piece of cardboard. You're going to need your scissors. We're going to be crocheting with our H hook, and the H is a 5.0 millimeter crochet hook. And another thing, if you want to use thinner yarn, you can use a smaller crochet hook and it'll make a little bit smaller hexagon. And for today's demonstration, I'm just going to use 2 colors. We're going to make it like this one, only we're going to use red and white. So it looks a little bit like a peppermint. Alrighty? Alright, and the last thing you need is your needle, because we're going to need to weave in some ends. Alrighty, so I'm going to put those, I like to use, and this is just a little tip I'll give you. I like to use this flat container. It's just a little bucket that's narrow, you know, it's not very deep, to put my yarn skeins in instead of a bowl, because a bowl works great for yarn balls, but it's not big enough if I want to leave it on the skein and just pull it out. Alright, so I've got my yarn and I've got my hook, my scissors, my needle, and something to use to wrap my yarn around to make the tassel. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit. Alright, so let's get started with our hexagon. Let me move my needle over. I'm going to begin with the white because I'm going to do the white in the center. I'm going to make a slip knot. And I'm going to chain 4. Now I am using 2 colors instead of 3. This one is with 3 colors and this one is with 2. You can use any colors that you want to. Alright, so I chained 4, and now we're going to place 5 double crochets in the 4th chain from the hook. Our first 3 chains are going to count as a first double crochet. Yarn over, go in that 4th chain, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2. So now I have 2 double crochets because my chain 3 counts as my first one. Alright, so I need to make 4 more so that I have 6 double crochets. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need 1 more. Sorry about the clearing of my throat today. Like I said, I've got a little bit of a cold going on. Alright, so I have 6 double crochets. I'm going to join to the top of my chain 3 with a slip stitch. So I'll pull a loop through, then I'll pull that loop through the loop on my hook and chain 1, and that's just going to keep it from coming undone. So now I have my little circle in the middle. I'm going to join in my red, but I'm not going to cut my white because I'm going to be going back and forth in colors. And I do that so that I don't have to weave in additional yarn. If you're more comfortable going ahead and clipping this when you bring in your new color, you can do that. Either way is fine. It's what you're most comfortable doing. Alright, so this was row 1. Row 2, we're going to chain 3, and this chain 3 counts as 1 double crochet. We're going to double crochet in that same stitch, so we have 2 double crochets together, and then we're going to chain 2. And then what we're going to do is each of these 5 stitches, we're going to stitch 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, and chain 2. One and 2, and chain 2. Now, if you didn't get a chance to go grab your yarn, it's okay. You can always come back and make these later. That's why I put them out there. And of course, we're doing a Christmas ornament because we're still doing Christmas in July. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, chain 2, and I need to do one more in this last stitch, and we're going to do 2 double crochets, chain 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, chain 2, and we're going to join to the top of the chain 3 with a slip stitch again. All right, so there's our second row. Now I'm going to bring back in my white yarn. Make sure you get the right tail. I've accidentally grabbed the wrong tail. Doesn't work out good. All right, so I'm bringing my white back in, and I'm not changing colors till the next row, so I'm going to go ahead and leave my red attached. And see, now I didn't have to attach my white. I just drew the yarn up and started with the white. All right, now before we do that, I forgot one thing. Let's pull that white back out. Let's grab that red, because we need to slip stitch in the top of that double crochet and then slip stitch in the chain 2 space, because that's where we need to pull up the white. All righty, now we've got the white up. Make sure you snug that red down, and we're going to go right in this chain 2 space, and I'm going to snug that white down a little bit. There we go. And now we're going to chain 3. We're going to double crochet in that same chain 2 space, chain 2, and then we're going to stitch 2 double crochets in that same chain 2 space. And that looks like a corner. 2 double crochets because our chain 3 counts as 1, chain 2, 2 double crochets, and then we're going to chain 2, and we'll go right to the next chain 2 space and stitch 2 double crochets, chain 2 and 2 double crochets. And chain 2. And we'll do this all the way around, stitching 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, chain 2 in each of the chain 2 spaces. And this is what gives us our shape of the hexagon. And I know that I'm stitching just a little bit looser than I would normally, but I'm wanting to make sure that you can see where I'm putting my stitches. And if you are a real loose crocheter, you can always go down a crochet hook or 2. Never be afraid to adjust your hooks in order to get the gauge or the size, I was going to say shape, size that you want. Chain 2. This one kind of looks like peppermint because it's white and red. All right, chain 2, and now I'm on my last chain 2 space. Chain 2 and our last 2 double crochets. And chain 2. Now we're going to join to the top of our chain 3 with a slip stitch. And again, we're going to slip stitch in that double crochet and then slip stitch in that chain 2 space. And that just gets us to the center so we can bring in our next color. Now we're done with the white, so I'm going to go ahead and clip that. There we go. And bring up my red. All right, so this last row is just a trim. So we're going to go right in this chain 2 space, and we're going to stitch 2 single crochets. All right, so now we're going to go in between those first 2 double crochets and stitch a single. And a single is you just pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both those loops. We're going to place 1 single in the chain 2 space, and then we're going to put a single between those next 2 double crochets. Now we're back to the corner, and we'll place 2 singles in the chain 2 space. We'll stitch 1 single between the next 2 double crochets, 1 single in the chain 2 space, 1 single between the next 2 double crochets. And so what you can see, what we're doing is we're placing 2 singles in the corner portion of the chain 2 space, and then we're stitching 3 single crochets on that small side, 1 between the first 2, 1 in the chain 2, and then 1 between the next 2. All right, so I'll just continue this around. This is just giving us a nice trim and also help our hexagon hold its shape. And I do kind of stitch this particular row, and I usually do this when I'm doing a trim anyway, is just stitch it a little bit tighter than I am stitching the rest of the project, because that last little trim helps it hold its shape and, you know, just tidies it up. All right, so I'm stitching 2 single crochets and 3 across. All right, here's my next one, and next one. So there's 3, and then 2 in the chain 2 space. All right, so now I'm on my last side. Also, if I'm going way too fast, if you watch this over on YouTube, you can slow it down and put it on slow-mo. All right, so now we're going to join to that first single crochet, and then I'm going to join right in between those 2 just so that I'm centered, and I'm going to chain 15 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this makes a really long loop. If you want your loop to be smaller, you can make it smaller. But this is the loop so that we can hang it up. Alrighty, so I'm going to go ahead and cut my yarn. And I'm going to turn this over, and you can see it's a little bit messy, but think about how messier it would be if we cut off every single row. All right, so I'm going to take my needle, thread this one, and I'm going to make that loop. We're just going to join it in, and this loop needs to be sturdy because you don't want your loop coming out when you hang it up somewhere for decoration. So we're just going to stitch back and forth until I'm happy. And you notice I'm going through stitches, not just holes. Alrighty, we'll cut that. And then we need to weave in these ends. And I'm going to show you how to do the one. I'm not going to do them all right now, just because I don't want to take up too much time. But the main thing in weaving in your ends is to go through stitches and fibers of the yarn and not the holes. If I were just to go through the holes, it would come out very easily. But we want this to be able to last a long time. So I'm going through stitches and through fibers, going back and forth like one way, then the other. Alrighty? Alright, now I'll come back in and weave those ends later. But here is my hexagon. And you can lay these out and block them if you want the shape to be crisper. All right, so now let's make the little tassel. And I'm going to use 3 strands. So I'm going to use about that long. Now this measure tape or ruler is about 6 inches. I said about 5.5, but it's a little over 6 actually. And what I do is I'll cut 2, and I think I'm going to use red. Now on this one I used one of each color. Alright, so I'm going to use another red one. Just cut it just like that. So I've got 3. I'm going to go Here's where I have the top, and I'm going to go right straight down here and go between those 2 single crochets. Put those on there. Pull that through. And then pull all those through, just like that. There's the fringe. And it's up to you how long you want that. And I'm going to go with like the one that I have that's the shortest here and just clip that across. And that's how easy it is to make a fun little hexagon ornament. And like I said, they're great for hanging on stockings, on your mantle, just about anything that you want to decorate. And different colors, like these are blue and white, which I really love the blue and white. Let me take off my glasses, because to me it just says snow and winter. So anyway, that's how you make the simple little hexagon Christmas ornament. Now you can change to lighter thread and use a smaller hook. You can make them in chunkier thread and use a heavier hook, thicker hook, and make them bigger. It's totally up to you what you want to do with that pattern. It's just a fun, simple pattern. All right, shall we talk about what's going on this week with Posh Pooch Designs? Get my chair back over here where it belongs. All right. Okay, I slid off my little thing. Okay, so yesterday, or was it, I don't remember when it was. Let's see, this is, yes, yesterday we did the triple thick potholder pattern. And it was kind of neat. I had a lady contact me, ask me if I had ever seen this particular type of hot pad pattern. And so I dug through my bins and I found this one. You can see it's a little bit older, it's a little bit worn, and it actually is a little yellow on the back from heat. And that's because when I originally made this one, I used a combination of cotton and worsted weight acrylic. And you should never ever use acrylic if you're going to put something hot on it. And so what I did is I updated and redid the video and the pattern to make these. And this one looks bigger, but they're actually the exact same size. It's so funny because the colors on it make it look bigger. Now what these are is 3 layers thick. You've got a front, you've got a center, and a back. 3 layers thick of a cotton filled in granny square, and the way you set it up just makes it have a nice little pattern. And they're wonderful gifts. They're wonderful to use, and you can put a hot pot right out of the oven on this onto your counter. Make sure you make it out of cotton, not acrylic. That's the main thing. And that pattern is out there along with the video. The other thing that we did was for the Christmas in July patterns, I did the wreath 12-inch granny square. I've got them in several different colors that I made. I'm actually going to make a lapgan. You can see I sort of changed them up some so they all look different. And I'm going to make a lapgan. I've got to make one more, and then I'm going to put 4 together and make a really cool lapgan for Christmas. And then you can hook them together. You can make table runners, pillows, blankets, placemats, whatever you want to make. It's just a great little easy 12-inch Christmas wreath granny square. So we did that. Let's see, what else did we do this week? I guess that's everything for this week. I've been, for a while I was doing several videos a week, and I've been sort of cutting that back a little bit because I'm trying to, oh, I know what the other thing I did was, but I've been trying to cut it back a little so we aren't getting so much stuff all the time. What I did is I made the baby Bunny Hugs hooded baby blanket, and I can't show it to you because it's a gift that I'm giving to my neighbor, and so I don't have it. So anywho, but that pattern is out there. It's the Bunny Hugs hooded baby blanket, and it's a baby blanket that's a little bit bigger. It's about 40 by 40, and so the hood is a good size, so the baby can use it, you know, up through being a toddler. So it's a really fun blanket to do, and it's 2 different types of yarn, and depending on what colors you can make it in neutrals, you can make it, it'll be beautiful just in like a off-white, but you can do blues or pinks or purples or brown, whatever you want, and it looks different with every yarn that you use. And the pattern is worsted weight number 4, and so you can use basic yarns. You don't have to use just baby yarns. Okay, that was the other thing. I knew there was one more thing, but I forgot. I can't show it to you because it's a gift. and I give it to the person who's it's for. All right, so the last thing I wanted to show you, I'm so sorry. I'm probably a little loopy today because of my sinus medication. So I'm just kind of, as I told you at the beginning, I'm not feeling the best. I had a rough night, but we're going to have a good day. Okay, so I went to Hobby Lobby and I found these. And this is the Chick Sheep yarn that was designed by Marley Bird. And if you don't know, she's the Red Heart spokesperson. And this yarn just came out in Hobby Lobby. And if you're looking for it, it's 100% wool, but it is the softest wool you will ever use. I mean, it is so soft. And I chose these 3 colors because I have a fall project that I'm going to do. Now, the yarn at Hobby Lobby is $9.99 a skein. And it seems a little expensive, but it is 100% wool. And right now, Hobby Lobby's yarn is 30% off. So that's why I went ahead and picked those up. And I also found out that they're going to be at Joann's as well. So if you're a Joann shopper, you can check over there. And remember, Hobby Lobby has coupons, Joann's has coupons, Michael's has coupons. Use those coupons. Alrighty. And usually it's like 40% off one item. And I'm going to tell you what I do. If I need 2 skeins, I take my husband. And I buy one and he buys one at 40% off, okay? And sometimes I'll go back, I'll get one, and then I'll go back and get another one later. Not the same day, probably sometimes not even the same week. But that way, I can get the 40% off. And another thing is Joann's. They accept Hobby Lobby and Michael's coupons usually. And I'm saying usually because I've had times where they say we're not doing that today. But for the most part, they do. And plus, Joann's is always having sales on their yarn. So check around, you know, go different places. I'm really blessed. I have a Michael's, a Hobby Lobby, and a Joann's relatively close to me. Joann's is a little farther. It takes me about 15 minutes to get there. But all the other ones are just right downtown from me. And another thing about yarn is, you know, I did that walkthrough at Walmart. And I noticed that a lot of the shelves were empty. And so I was talking to the girl Friday. And they're going to be putting all the Red Heart yarn on rollback. Not clearance, but rollback. Now, this is just what she told me. So, I don't know if it's happening in every Walmart. But they're going to be putting the Red Heart Super Saver on rollback. They're going to be bringing in some of the new ones that they haven't had, like the ombres and some of the new Red Heart yarn that's out there. And then they're going to be having less colors of the solids of the Red Heart Super Saver because they're bringing in a whole new group of Walmart's yarn. That's the Hometown. Is it Hometown? No. Mainstay yarn. And they're going to have variegated in some different variegated colors. So my Walmart just has a few of the solids right now. But that's why the shelves are empty in a lot of places, because they're trying to sell through and they're not reordering. So check with your local Walmart to see what you can find. They're going to be having some new Lion Brand colors as well, but I don't know, you know, what it'll be just yet. All I have is to go by is the lady that was stocking that shelf, and I don't know if she's a manager in that area or not. So anyway, just a little FYI to pass on along. Usually in the fall is when a lot of the craft stores and also Walmart and some other places that carry yarn usually do their resets because they want to have the new stuff for fall and winter. Sometimes the new cottons will come out in the spring. because cotton is considered, of course, a spring and summer weight yarn. But those of you who are like me, you want all kinds of yarn, all kinds of weights all the time. So anyway, that's what's happening this week at Posh Pooch Designs. I hope that you'll make some of those ornaments. They're really fun to make. And like I said, if I went too fast on the video, shoot over to YouTube after a bit when I get it up there. And you can use it's just a button you click to slow it down. And you can also put it on slow motion. And it's really kind of funny when you put it on slow motion. So anyway, because sometimes when I'm trying to do it live, I'm trying to go just a little fast because I want you to, you know, be able to see what I am doing. Well, thank you, Carol, for saying that. I'm not feeling, like I said, I'm not feeling 100%, but I do really enjoy our time together. I feel like I've made lots of wonderful friends, even though I've never met you in person. All of you that follow, and like I always say, I cannot do what I love, which is yarn and crochet, without you, because you watch my videos, you follow me, you work my patterns, and a lot of you message me. And feel free. One of the things, I had turned off my messaging on my Facebook Posh Pooch Design page because I was just getting really inappropriate stuff. And so I about a month ago, I went ahead and I turned my messaging back on. So if you want to message me through Facebook on my Posh Pooch Design page, you certainly can. But if you have like a long question about a pattern and maybe you need some pictures or some additional help, it's almost easier if you email me, because it's easier to write it out and include pictures and things like that. If it's a long question, you feel free to email me. And you can do that just by going to my webpage at www.poshpoochdesigns.com. And when you click on that, up in the corner it says contact, and you can just hit that contact button and it'll go right to my email, and you can shoot me an email if your question's longer. But if not, you're free to use that message on my Facebook page. You can also comment here or comment on the YouTube video as well. So I'm going to let you go so I can get some rest and feel better. And I'll see you next week. Oh, don't forget, the video from last week is where you need to comment if you want to get in on the giveaway of that Christmas yarn. And I'll put a link in there so you can, when I get this over to YouTube, so you can just click that link and it'll shoot you back over there. Okie dokie?